Ben Riggs presents D&D Out Loud, episode 112, D&D in Renaissance Venice.
Greeting once again, one and all, to D&D Out Loud with Ben Riggs. I am Ben Riggs, apparently controversial D&D historian and author of Slaying the Dragon, A Secret History of Dungeons and Dragons. And over the past 13 years of writing and podcasting, I have met hundreds of creative geniuses in and around the world of tabletop role-playing games. Here on the show today, I have asked two of these flaming torches of the human imagination to come forth and have a fascinating discussion, which I record and then send out into the world. With us today are Tyler Denison and Sarp Duyar. Oh, did I get it right?
Nailed it.
Yep.
Nailed it.
Good. I was worried for a second. I wrote it in my handwriting, and it's not always legible early in the morning. Two of the creators of Historica Arcanum. Is it Serenade of the Damned?
Serenade for the Damned.
Serenade for the Damned, which is up for Best Long Form Adventure this year at the ENNIEs. And let's just start speaking practically. Historica Arcanum looks like a historical 5e setting of dark fantasy. What can you tell us about that before we get into the adventure itself?
So I can just start and Tyler can take over whenever I mess up.
Sure.
So Historic Arcanum has been our flagship IP for 5 years. We started off the entire company on the premise of the very first one, the City of Crescent, since that we are from Istanbul and the City of Crescent takes place in 19th century Istanbul. That's what get us the itch to start doing this full time and build a company around it. Historic Arcanum is essentially, as just as you said, it's a alternate history meets with Dungeons and Dragons in a more gritty, realistic tone. And we have been doing settings and adventures for this universe for 6 years now. We have done City of Crescent, as I said, 19th century Istanbul, Empires of the Silk Road, and Herald of Rain. We decided to go with two book structures after that point, which takes place in 15th century Silk Road. Then we have done Era of Crusade and Sigil of Jerusalem, which takes place in Third Crusade, events around that. Then we have come to Renaissance era, which is also how we got our long form nomination for, with Echoes of Renaissance and Serenade for the Damned. And our latest addition to the set was the Coven of Salem and its adventure module, The Sickle and the Scepter, which released on Kickstarter 4 months ago, Tyler?
Something like that, yeah.
Wow, where to go from there? I guess I'll remain practical and ask about your Venice adventure. So the adventure nominated for an ENNIE is set in Venice. Tell me everything you can about that without spoiling it for people, because I'm sure players are going to be listening.
Yeah. So it takes place in 16th century Venice in 1520, 1521 CE, around the time of the carnival, but a little bit before and a little bit after that. It's a time of existential dread for a lot of Venetians, because they just survived a pretty devastating war with their neighbors in the League of Cambrai, and they made it through. But some people are wondering what's coming next, and they've got the rising threat of the Ottoman Empire to the east, and their frenemies in France and the Holy Roman Empire, and their frenemy in the Papal States, the Pope, circling around. So Venice is in this precarious state of surviving and keeping up appearances of being this perfect floating republic, but cracks are starting to show, and in those cracks, darkness grows. Without spoiling too much, some people have come back to Venice for a particular sort of revenge, and the player is going to kind of get caught up in all of that.
Wow, where to go from there? So it's certainly man, there's so much to talk about. I guess I will start here. So the D&D rules were designed for fantasy combat, and you're now you're taking the fantasy combat rules and bringing them back into the real world. So how do you manage to take the D&D rules and make them work in a real world historical setting?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Sarp, go ahead.
Like I just wanted to say that we also modify like the real world a bit, so it is more of an alternate history that has magic in its roots rather than just going full historical, martial arts stances and whatnot. We've added that in, especially with the setting book of the Renaissance set. We've added historical martial arts and different ways of using, weapons. So you don't just, attack with your longsword. You have different stances and whatnot. But in its core, Historic Arcanum is also a fantastic setting where you can, blast a creature with a fireball.
Yeah, so it's an interesting challenge of trying to keep verisimilitude and historical accuracy to a certain extent, but also have fireball. So we have this system. It's optional, but a lot of people play with it, called spell rebound, where if you do too much magic, reality kind of course corrects and tries to like get you back in line, sort of thing. So you can fireball the Pope in the face, but there will be consequences, both real world consequences of chucking a fireball into a crowded room, as there would be in D&D 2, obviously, in some scenarios, but also certain spells. If you do too much magic or if you push it too far, you might find other consequences other than the royal guard coming after you type thing.
Yeah.
And that's going to be, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, like one of our unique challenges here is to like rewrite setting after setting in this universe, and each take place in different times and different locations. But the course of history has to flow like it did in real life for those different settings and different times to exist. So that was like one of our biggest writing challenges, because essentially at the end of every adventure, the world has to kind of revert back to its default states of how it was in real world. And in universe, just as Tyler said, the way that universe course corrects is through spell rebound, where reality is vengeful. If you break its laws, it is going to come after you. It is going to break you. It is going to make your spells blast back to your face, or essentially build a strings of coincidences that will eventually get you in big trouble. So that is how the universe operates in Historic Arcanum. That is how you can have fireball pop to the face with the real world consequences in the same book.
Wow. That's absolutely fascinating. Because again, I feel like other games are either like I've seen some games where it's like, all right, it's the 16th century and D&D rules exist and whatever, and they put absolutely no effort into it whatsoever. But I've also seen TSR put out a 19th century horror supplement back in the day, Mask of the Red Death, which was the D&D rules, but our world and with shotguns. The shotgun rules were very cool, but that it sounds like you guys have really put in the work on both the rules and the setting to make this succeed. So again, my primary interest is as a historian, so I just have to ask, how did tabletop role-playing games come to Turkey?
Oof, big question. So it's like from my personal experience, because I am Turkish. I lived here for a long, long time, but I also had the opportunity to study abroad. And the biggest differences between the more default way that tabletop games spread in the United States, in mainland Europe, especially Northern Europe, that I was in for a long time, between that and Turkey. In Turkey, the nerd culture, especially for role-playing games, this subculture is built around university clubs. So it is not a store that you go to buy a book. It is not a store that you go to buy a dice, but it is a university club that essentially as it is in university clubs, passes torches down from generation to generation. So there is a very big, oh, this guy knew that system and he built his, cult of personality around that system, and now he's passing the torch to newcomers. Oh, but those guys are playing this system very differently. So it is a very interesting culmination point. Add that with the fact that Turkey, especially Istanbul, is a very popular expat destination. Uh, so I have seen a wild variety of systems and ways of playing and ways of approaching the hobby in Turkey, compared to a somewhat more tame approach that was in Northern Europe to US, where it is mostly game shops, hobby shops, and whatnot.
So what games have been translated into Turkish, or are you guys, if you're at university, are you mostly using English books?
Yeah, mostly using English books. There have been like fan translations of systems. Most notably, Fate was translated by a notable streamer in Turkey very recently. But that was more of a passion project rather than a commercial one. So most of the tabletop RPGs that are being played in Turkey is translated, if at all, by fans who just want to put it out there for other people.
I mean, it's interesting because it was the first demographic in the United States was essentially university students that D&D just swept through, and then it trickled out from there. But oh man, again, I'm very fascinated by the worldwide spread of the medium of tabletop role playing games because
absolutely.
Again, I would say the stereotype. Tyler, I'm assuming you're American.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the stereotype here is that, there's still a bit of a nerdy white male stereotype for the gamer. And it came out of, like people in the Midwest in the middle of nowhere. And it started with poor people, university educated poor people, but poor people. So it's fascinating to see it just spread across the world and that, people from other places and cultures find purchase in the medium. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. I sorely, and I'm just going to ask about it. So tell me about your Constantinople setting, because that sounds amazing.
Tash, do you want to take the lead?
Sure, yes. So that was as Sarp said before, that was the first book. It takes place in the 19th century in sort of a reimagined or alternate version of the mid 1800s or like 1830s to 1850s. Which just the quick little side note, we always put a lies we told section in our books for where we do veer away, which there are always a couple like things like we wanted to use this person. Yes, he died 20 years before, but we wanted to use him type thing. So we always try to like give those little like here's where we change things. But anyway, so again, so not spoiling anything, it's been out for a while, but if people are still interested in playing it, it's a tale of political intrigue between the Sultan and the remaining Janissaries, because by this point the Janissaries have been wiped out in the auspicious incident. One of the best what do you call it when you use a different word instead of the bad word? I forget what that's called.
Yeah.
Euphemism.
Euphemism, thank you. One of the best euphemisms for like a purge was the auspicious incident. So and there are a couple other like lingering ghosts coming back to haunt the Sultan, and the Sultan is looking towards like how do we use this new modernizing Ottoman Empire to further our aims in different ways. But it's cool. Yeah, it's centered around the city of Constantinople, Istanbul, and a bunch of like different neighborhoods come into it. The underground comes into it. Some random other people attached to the Ottoman Empire, but like from the periphery come into play. It's a lot of fun.
Could you tell us? Please go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
I think like one of the biggest, strongest points about the setting itself is the city itself, because like around Victorian era Istanbul, it is a city that has like a 2,000-year history, but is also trying to modernize, invite people from all over the world. Like there are snippets of information that I'm going to spoil a couple of side quests, but it is very fascinating. Is around this time, Agatha Christie went to a hotel, a very famous one in Istanbul, disappeared for a week, and came back having written the Orient Express book. That is in the book. So you're trying to solve what happened to her. Uh, you have a huge underground catacomb section underneath the city that is essentially a city within itself. If anybody played first two Baldur's Gates or like the third one also, it is essentially the same thing alongside this, where you have a massive complex of labyrinthine catacombs going from every historical corner of the city to the other ones, even potentially to, we don't know for certain, to the islands that Byzantine Emperor Justine was planning to escape Nicaria from. So everything comes in together. The empire, being empire at like the crossroads of the of cultures, is very diverse. There's a lot of culture, people from all across Mediterranean, Balkans, Caucasus, Africa, Asia, and we wanted to use this setting and adventure as a way of essentially introducing the vast diversity of the city and the history of it. I think it's a good book. You guys should take a look at it.
Well, like a thing I've been thinking about lately is how tabletop role-playing games are actually, more immersive than movies, and probably even more immersive than video games, even though there's no, visual element really, unless you get some miniatures. And it really seems like you're offering a tabletop role-playing game experience that is almost like the D&D world tour. Like, okay, yeah, there's D&D rules,
Yep.
and there's magic, and you can fireball the Pope, but really you're here to see the underground of Constantinople, and see what remains of the wall. I should say Istanbul, not Constantinople. But see what remains of the walls of, I forget who built the walls outside of which version of the walls. Thank you. And just listening to you talk about the product, I think, because again, I've been interviewing ENNIE nominees for about the past a week. You may have done the most talking about your settings, even though your settings are in the real world, and we should have the most pre-existing knowledge of that setting. But and again, looking at the products too, it's clear that your pitch is, come visit Renaissance Venice, come visit 19th century Istanbul, and it's working on me.
Yeah. It's another interesting challenge too, is because I forget which sociologist said it, but like when we travel, we look for the familiar, right? And we're disappointed when things don't match our expectations. So that's also a challenge writing history too, or a game like this, because people want to get immersed in Venice during the Renaissance, but what some of the realities might not be what they think they are. So it's we always have this little balancing act too, of like, again, like being faithful to history and historical accuracy, but also making sure it's fun. Which, without spoiling too much, for the Coven of Salem, that's another thing, like making Puritan New England fun and scary. Well, it's scary, definitely scary, and things like that, but also making it like an enjoyable, immersive experience and not just a big downer.
I mean, do you have rules for shuffleboard in there? I hear that shuffleboard was huge in Salem.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap up with the question I've been wrapping up with for everyone. What is one role-playing game or role-playing game product that you love that you think not enough people are aware of?
And not our own.
I mean, you can say it, I suppose. It would be ballsy, but go for it.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't know, like a lot of my favorites are like pretty well known. I guess I could give a shout out to Sarp. Do you have anything? Give me a little bit more time to think.
Okay, let me.
Okay,
so This is not necessarily an unknown product, but something that really inspired us was Chaosium's Horror on Orient Express campaign. Because I mean, like as you can imagine, Call of Cthulhu is very adjacent to what we are doing. It's just that like we're doing it with Dungeons and Dragons rule set, and our universe is a bit more less cosmic horror and more about, yeah, let's bash the monster with swords. That's the universe.
Yeah.
So their work that they have done, like essentially like compared to us since time immemorial, is very inspiring, and that is also one of the campaigns that we actually had the chance to finish with writers in studio.
That's very cool.
And for me, I guess again, it's not like an unknown game or anything. It's quite well known, but more people should play it. I would pick. There are a few, but I would pick Heart: The City Beneath by Rowan Whippen Deckard, just because I love that game, and I feel like most people know them now for other amazing games they've done, and it's just such a great game. Like everything about it is zany and wild and really fun to play. So that would be my choice.
Amazing. So is your website the best place for people to get your products?
Yep, you can get everything from our website. It's metismedia.net. Also, you can find everything we have on Drive-Thru RPG too, in case that's easy for people if their collection is there.
All right, metismedia.net. Got it. Well, Tyler, Sarp, anything else either of you want to say?
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, it was great.
Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this, and enjoy your days.